evening and welcome to Credit Talk. I am your host, Todd Stern. Tonight for the next half hour, we will be talking credit, all about it. Questions? Yes, give me a call right now, 312-738-1060. And for our Facebook Live people, please type in your questions and we'll get those answered as soon as possible. Okay, so first of all, I hope everybody had a great holiday. And with holidays, we do have Christmas coming up soon, which I can't believe. But I think Labor Day isn't one that people will go too crazy with and spend like crazy. And we'll get into that budgeting in our next show or two, because before you know it, they will be there. And we don't want to spend too much money, which happens all the time. So we're going to talk right now a little bit about bankruptcies, foreclosures. So if you have any questions regarding that, 312-738-1060. So let's go to the Credit Talk News. Yes, this is very special newspaper created just for you. So the question that we get all the time, how bad will a foreclosure hurt my credit? Well, unfortunately, a foreclosure hurts your credit score, which means it'll be harder sometimes or impossible to get credit cards, loans. In the coming years, you can get this stuff, but you're going to pay a much higher rate. So it's usually 2 to 3 years out of a foreclosure. You can get another home, but it does definitely mess up your credit. There are options, as we've discussed, credit repair, find a reputable company to help you out with that. Now, the only reason you try to get out of the foreclosing, if possible, but a lot of times, like in 07 and 08, people were upside down. They owed more money than their house was worth. So the easiest thing was to foreclose. So I get it. So we see a lot of people at the Help Center that have been in this position, and we point them in the right directions on how to get out of that, fix your credit, get with the proper mortgage broker, and hopefully purchase a new home. So that is something that we can talk about. This is a great chart I want to show everybody. How long after a bankruptcy can I buy a property? So let me enlarge this a little bit for everybody. And sorry, my FaceTime Live people can't see the TV. But so as I mentioned, FHA mortgage, which is so popular now because that's where you put little down, 3% or less. So you can basically get one of those 3 years after a foreclosure. So if you do go in foreclosure, work on the rest of your credit as well to keep that intact, keep your balances down. If you have derogatory information, get with a good credit repair company. Let's talk about VA loans. 2 years from the completion of your foreclosure. So if you did serve in the military, that's a great option for you. The VA loan. USDA, we're not going to really talk about because there's not too many farms around here. And jumbo. Does anybody know what a jumbo loan is? Well, that's in the dollar amounts are going to vary from state to state. But according to our charts, it's, depending on what type it is, usually 5 years after a foreclosure. Now, there could be other programs now. This chart is maybe a year old, so the banks are constantly changing that information. So it could be a hopefully lesser time. What is a jumbo loan? A jumbo loan is a larger amount. You need a higher score. It's usually, I'm not even 100% sure what the dollar amount is anymore because it fluctuates. I think it's a little over $400,000. So if you're going to get a $700,000-$800,000 mortgage, your scores need to be in the mid 700, 740 or above to get those type of loans. So again, we want to make sure that our scores and our credit look awesome. So let's go to our next thing. Oops, sorry about that. Can I get out of debt without a bankruptcy? Well, definitely yes, you can. The biggest way to do that is obviously figure out exactly what you owe. Do it the old-fashioned way. Pen, paper, write it out. This credit card, I owe this much. This credit card, I owe this much. Your expenses. How much is my rent or mortgage a month? Food, entertainment. See what you have left over at the end of the day to try to make additional payments on those credit cards. Because if you just make that minimum payment, it's going to take you 20 years to pay that credit card off. Plus, a $3,000-$4,000 credit card will turn into God only knows what huge amounts, because the interest rates could be anywhere from a low on a credit card, maybe 8-9%, as high as 20%. So depending on what your rate is, that can drag on forever. So making minimum payments is not the best way. And I always stay away from those department store cards, as I mentioned all the time. That is nothing but trouble. We see it at the help center all the time. People have 10 department store cards, and it just becomes a nightmare. So we want to keep off of those, keep away from those. What types of bankruptcies are there? Well, again, I'm not a bankruptcy attorney, and usually we have our co-counsel here, Larry Smith. He's our resident attorney for Credit Talk, and he can explain this well. But I can tell you this. There's a Chapter 7 and a Chapter 13. What are the differences? A Chapter 7 is a total dismissal of all debt. So you got $1 million, and you want to do a Chapter 7. Now, the problem is with it, now there's a problem, but let's say I owe, let's be more realistic. Say I owe $60,000 in credit cards, but I have a house that has $200,000 worth of equity. I'm making $75,000 a year. I've got $60,000 in the bank. What happens is they're going to put you through a test, basically. I would not qualify to do a Chapter 7 if I have all those things going for me. Now, the next thing is a Chapter 13. That's what they would put you in that situation. What is a Chapter 13? It's a court-ordered basically payment plan. So what they basically do is with the credit card companies, most likely there's going to be no interest. You're going to pay a trustee every month, and then they divvy out the money to all the credit card companies. So that's the difference between a 13 and a 7. Now, we see a lot of people not a lot, but people call us at the help center, and I'll see that they filed a Chapter 13. And I'll say, well, Mrs. Smith, why did you file a Chapter 13? Do you have money in the bank? No. Do you own any property? No. Do you have a lot of credit card debt? Yes. So why did you file a 13? Well, the attorney told me to do. Unfortunately, like in any business, there's some people that don't put your interest, for best. So basically what happens is a Chapter 13, an attorney can actually make more money than a Chapter 7. So that's what happens, and a lot of times attorneys, the ones that aren't going to, play it straight with you will do, and they'll put you in a 13. So if you don't have money in the bank or own a house with a lot of equity or any equity, you should be filing a Chapter 7. So again, like any type of business or whatever, call 1 or 2 attorneys and find out exactly what fits you best, and find out prices, because one attorney could charge a certain amount and the other guy can charge another. So it's not like there's a set price that people charge for these type of services. Okay, do file a bankruptcy, let's say. Does credit repair work? Well, I've said to you many times before, yes, it does. Everybody's situation is different. We talked to a lot of people at the help center about this, and as I mentioned before, how do you find a credit repair company? Real simple. Your computer. Go on Google. It's the best. And read reviews. If you go to a restaurant, you go on Yelp or Google and you look at restaurant reviews and read them and see who's got the good food, who's got bad service. Same with a credit repair company. Just go online in your area, type in whatever it might be. If you're in Chicago, type in Chicago, just very key words, credit repair Chicago, perhaps. And that will bring up several companies. I've seen them. And just read the reviews. That's what I always tell people. You're doing this for automotive service, a gym, whatever. It's the same thing. Now, this is really important because you want to use a good, reputable company to help you with it. Boost your credit score now. Now, just because you go through we tell people at the center, just because you're going to use, ABC Credit Repair, that's a fake company, by the way, you're not going to become a 750 because you have no open good credit, and then they've cleaned up your credit report. you've got to crawl, walk, and run. So you've got to get some credit on there. And we've discussed this before, secured credit cards. That's where you go to a major bank. You're going to put money in an account. They're going to give you a Visa or MasterCard. And I always tell people, it's not that we give you this credit card to go have a good time. We want you to use it, but bottom line, it will show up on your credit report. And make your payments on time. That's very, very important. Okay, so I've been holding back on some calls. Let's go to our first caller. Hello, caller.
Yeah, I'm interested in consolidating my debt because I have several credit cards. How do you do that? Do you just find one particular consolidation credit card, or how does that work?
Well, like anything else, there are companies that can help you out with consolidation. There's some non-for-profit companies, but just because it says non-for-profit, still be careful. So several years ago, there were a lot of companies that were doing this. They actually got put out of business because the way they were doing it, their fees were extremely high. So again, I would suggest go online, look for non-for-profit, credit consolidation companies. They basically will have arrangements with these credit card companies to basically stop the interest. What is the problem with, debt is you might owe, again, $1,000, but at 18, 19%, and if you miss a payment or two, the rates shoot up to, I think, as high as 28%. So what kills you is that interest. So they're going to be able to get rid of the interest, and then you're going to make the payments to them, and then they're going to divvy it out to the credit card companies. But again, like anything else, make sure it's a legitimate company. Look at their paperwork. Find out what their fees are. Don't wait and don't, if you don't ask, that's not good either. But yes, there's definitely some good ones out there. Or, you can even try calling. If you haven't made late payments or anything, you can, you got to be careful though. You can call the credit card company. Don't say that you're in trouble, but ask them if they will lower the interest rate or find another card that might have a promotional no interest for 1 year or something like that. Switch to that card and start chipping away at that debt. And don't make any more charges during that period. Just use your debit card or cash. But thank you so much for the call. Really appreciate it. So this is kind of a little funny thing that we put at the end. But, who are you going to call when your credit score is 524? What should you call? Just give us a call here at Credit Talk, and we hopefully will have the answers for you. So that was definitely an interesting piece that we just discussed, and I do want to go over something because we get calls at the center all the time. And I'm also going to go to our email bag and discuss that, but I wanted to bring up one other presentation first. We've got so many here at the Help Center that I have to find it. Sorry about that, but oh well, anyways. So we got an email here from Scott from Highland Park wanting to know how long does negative information stay on his credit report. Well, excellent question, Scott. Regular negative information being collections, late payments, that will stay on your credit report for 7 years from the time it's gone bad or the late payment. Bankruptcies last for 10 years. So there's a big difference. And people will tell me, I paid that off whenever. But it's from the time the late payment started or the charge off. So that's when the time the clock will start. So again, 7 years on regular derogatory information, 10 years on bankruptcies. But we did discuss that actually when you do file a bankruptcy, you will start receiving some credit cards in the mail or applications. Now granted, they're going to be low credit limits, $200-$300, but there's special banks out there that basically say, hey, you know what? This guy has no debt. You cannot file a bankruptcy for another 10 years, so we're going to give you a shot. So they will definitely give you that, but the good thing about it too is you're going to rebuild your credit, and then 2 to 3 years out after that, you can purchase a home as well. So those are things to do. Let's go to our next call. Hello, caller.
Hi. So I actually had a question about a collection. I recently paid it off, but how long does it take them to remove it from the report, or will they remove it?
Well, that's a great question too. Now, what you should do is First of all, were you receiving any letters or phone calls from that collection agency first, or did you just find out about it by looking at your credit report?
Yeah, I actually did receive notifications.
You did, okay. Well, here's the trick. If you get those notifications, what I always suggest is try to nip it in the butt ASAP. If you call them right away, and hopefully it's a small amount, and pay it, hopefully it doesn't show up on the credit report. But we've had situations where we've helped people out where they don't know anything about the collection. Had a call today from people, it was a lady that owned a apartment building, and one of the tenants or something, they switched. The owner wanted the People's Gas switched back in her name, but she never got the bill or something, and they sent her to collection for like $42, and it went on her credit report. So in situations like that, explain your story to the collection agency. Sometimes the smaller ones will delete it for you. Say, hey, listen, I didn't, know about this. I found out about right now. If they haven't been calling you and chasing you, and you kind of reach out to them and say, hey, I'll pay this off, but can you please delete this from my credit report? It does work. A lot of the smaller ones will do it because, like anything else, they're a business. They need to make money. So that's a first shot. Worst case is they will mark it paid collection, but we tell people all the time at the help center, just because you pay a collection, it does not automatically come off your credit report. So again, in that situation, what's the number one collection that we see at the help center? Medical. So if that is on your credit report, and they're paid, that's when you need to seek out a professional to help you to try to get those deleted. Because again, what I was talking about before, if you have one item, that's fine. But if you have several, it can be very difficult, time consuming, plus you don't know exactly if you're doing it properly. So definitely reach out to a professional, and they will help you out. So let's go to some of my other presentations here, some of the questions that we get all the time, and I'm going to skip a couple of slides. So we only have a couple more minutes left, so give us a call, 312-738-1060. If you can't get a hold of us, which does happen, make sure that you give us a call at the help center at the number behind us, 773-862-4000. Let's talk about credit scores. What is a good credit score? So we're going to take it this first slide here. It's a little speedometer, and obviously the red is not good and the green is super good. So they say they start out at 300, which we've never seen a score that low. The lowest I've seen are, mid fives, and the highest I've seen is maybe an 810. But as I tell people, the magic number, if you're over 740, people are like, oh, I want to be a 760, a 770. It really doesn't matter. You're not going to get anything different if you're a 740 or a 752. It's the same thing. Obviously, sure, it looks great. You tell your buddies, I'm a 780, I'm a 790, but it really doesn't matter much versus a 740. So just keep it as high as possible. Monitor your score. Check it at least once a year. Now, people ask us all the time at the Help Center, how are these scores calculated? Well, I've got the answer for you. So let's look at the FICO score. So that's the one that most people hear of. So your payment history, 35% of that. So that means make those payments on time. And as we discussed before, if you have, a lot of credit card companies have it automatically set up. For some reason, if you miss the payment, it will, if it's linked to a checking account, a savings account, whatever it might be, it will draw that minimum payment, which is very, very helpful because the minimum payments usually are small, but if it does that, you're not going to be late. So that's really, really important. Make sure that that is set up. I know with the major banks here in Chicago, they do have that option. Okay, what else affects your score? Length of credit, 15%. So again, as I tell people all the time that do go through credit repair, okay, now you reestablish credit, but you're not going to be a 740 with two secured credit cards that you've had for 3 months with a credit limit of $300 each. You have to crawl, walk, and run. How do you get good scores? People have had credit on for 10 years, 6, 7 years, whatever it might be, and have payments on time, and then, because I'm jumping into this, amounts owed. So amounts owed is 30% of your credit score, and that happens to be the key number too. 30% of the credit limit. If you start going over 30% of the credit limit, that's going to start lowering your score. I actually reviewed a report today, and they want to know, why their scores were low. Well, you're basically maxed out on 8 of these credit cards. I told them you have to pay this debt down. But usually it's a catch-22. When they're high on the credit cards, there's a reason being they don't have the money to pay it. So again, it's a vicious circle. Try not to overextend yourself. That's why we always mention here on Credit Talk, stay away from those department store cards unless you're very, very disciplined and good. You want to make that big purchase to get that 10% off or 20% off or whatever the heck it is. But make sure you pay that bill in full. I've done it on a canoe, and I bought the canoe and I opened up a card there and got my discount, paid it off immediately, never used the card after that. So it's really, really important if you're going to do that type of situation that you pay it very, very fast. A couple other things that your score is calculated by: types of credit. What types are there? There's revolving, installment, new credit, 10% as well. So, but the number 1 and 2 items: payment history and amounts owed. It's simple. If you don't pay your credit cards on time, or your mortgage or your car payment, what's it going to do to your score? Down, down, down. If your credit balances are high, what's that going to do? It's going to lower them, lower your score as well. I think we have time for one more caller. Let's go to the call. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Hi, how are you?
Hi. So, I actually was wondering if you can tell me, I tried to apply for a credit card, but I got declined. I've never had any credit cards or anything like that. So I never applied for anything until now. So do you know why that might have been?
Well, what they're going to do is, I don't know when you did this or not, but they probably sent you a letter saying that they were denied, and they tell you that the reasons being that they reviewed your credit report from one of the 3 major bureaus, and you can send that letter to that bureau or possibly even go online and get that credit report. That's the first thing to do, because we get people all the time that call us at the help center with that exact question, and then as soon as they look at their report, oh my gosh, I was late, or I have this collection or this charge up. They knew nothing about it. So that's what I would say. Depending on your age, if you're young, sometimes, again, if you don't have a job, that could be it. Again, there's a nice way. The secured credit card program is really good, and that way it will establish your credit for you. But definitely take that letter, send it away, or go buy your credit report online and take a look at it. But you know what? The best thing is send it away, because actually, it's funny. Somebody actually gave me their login and password to look at one, and I happened to see a report right from the bureau, and they did have derogatory information, but the free credit report did not show their negative information. So stay away. I mean, the best ones to do are buy them. Don't dispute information as well on your own through these free companies. You get what you pay for. Hire a professional. Would you let some system do your tax returns for free? I don't think so. Hire a professional, let them look at it, let them review it. And a lot of these companies will give you a free review to begin with and tell you what is best for you. So, but in your situation, Miss, I would definitely send away for that credit report, and that way you can see exactly what is going on. Just looking for a couple more slides here. Don't really have much more to show you online, but we're just about out of time, and we do want to thank everybody tonight for watching the show, and our Facebook Live audience for watching as well. We will be back next Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Now we've got 3 more shows after this. So I'm hosting the next show, and then the show after that, we're going to have superstar attorney Larry Smith. He's going to be here to answer all your questions as well. So make sure you write down in your calendar to watch that one. That's going to be an exciting show. But until next week, I'll be back 6 p.m. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night. Thanks.